had to come from behind to do that. John Bow, who drove very well and led for a lot of the race. Glenn Seaton, a good third place for him, a strong drive. Alan Jones into fourth spot, had a lot of tyre problems yesterday. Colin Bond with a miraculous drive the other day when he avoided the Mark Scaife accident with brilliant reflexes. And Dick Johnson, who started so well yesterday, the car faded, but he'll be back in contention today. But watch from the rear of the grid, because we have Wynne Percy in the Holden Commodore just coming onto the grid now. Peter Brock also coming on, and Tony Longhurst. Those final three cars all had mechanical problems. Brock had an amazing blow-up yesterday, put a hole right through the top of the car. So they'll come from the rear. Almost ready. 10 laps, 3.78 kilometres around this racetrack. 37.8 kilometres is the race distance. Red lights waiting for a start any second now. Revs building away. Watch for the start. Phil Warden, the Merc, gets out in the middle, but look at Jimmy Richards, gets the power down very well. John Bow starts well. Look at Alan Jones, straight up into third place. Alan Jones, good start from him. Watch this as a bit of push and shove through the first corner. Look at the Commodore and Wynne Percy. It's there, so is Longhurst. Peter Brock is well back at the moment. A long way to go for those three cars. Bow now tucks in behind Jimmy Richards, gets as close as he can. Alan Jones slides a Sierra around. 1 of 10, this will be a beauty.
Jim Richards didn't make any mistakes this time. Off from the very first go. John Bow got a good start, and already you can see the Commodore flying through.
Wynne Percy off the air again. A brilliant drive yesterday, and the engine let go. They've changed engines overnight, and the Commodore really loves this circuit. Colin Bond also pretty well placed. There's the Commodore, really powering his way through the field. He's in 9th position, remember, starting from the rear of the grid. A great drive from Percy again.
When he gets on that straight, he'll be able to open up that V8, 5 litres of Commodore power, and certainly they have got some power here this weekend. He was driving extremely well yesterday to get up into, I think, 3rd spot before he blew up, and there on the straight on the opening lap, the Pitt Street traffic, Swanson Street if you're in Melbourne. Here we go, under brakes. Oh, not too friendly.
Here's a replay of the start for you. We'll come back to that incident. Here's Jimmy Richards, got away to a terrible start yesterday, but the power down on the Nissan straight away today. Look at Wynne Percy chewing through on the outside. Longhurst was tucked in behind him. Right, back live now, and a bit of push and shove there from John Bow and Jim Richards, and of course that's pushed Bow back into 3rd place. Glenn Seaton took advantage of that, slipped into 2nd place now. So it's now Jimmy Richards as they come over the start-finish line in the GTR, the pretty little Nissan. It's a missile, this thing. Seaton then in the Sierra. He is in 2nd place. John Bow's in 3rd place. Then we have Alan Jones. Then we have Colin Bond. Bow in the pits, that's Dick Johnson, I'm sorry, in 3rd place. Bow has gone into the pits after that incident at the end of the straight.
Obviously cost him. That was a fairly good nudge. I'd suspect probably he's lost a little bit of alignment with the front of his car, and obviously paid the penalty dearly. 10 laps, he can't get back into this race.
No doubt about that, but Dickie Johnson, and there's John Bow's car in the pits now. That incident at the end of the straight has put him out, but it's Jimmy Richards in front of it. A lot of work to get around this car. Absolutely flawless yesterday. Had to work his way from 5th spot to take the race in fine style. But it's Seaton 2nd, 2 Sierras now. Longhurst also in the pits. Alan Jones, you can see, way back now in 6th, so it's cost him some places. He was running in 4th or 5th, and I think that Commodore or Wynne Percy's gone past him. Percy absolutely flying at the moment.
Seaton's in a good spot here. He's got the slipstream, and as well Johnson and the Caltex car of Colin Bonds. They're staying with the Nissan. They need to. If he gets too far away out of the slipstream, they'll lose him and they'll never see him again.
Look at the difference of the handling of the cars on this circuit, though. Richards Nissan sitting down, Seaton Sierra sliding around the corners behind him. Dick Johnson trying to make an impression in 3rd place, but Richards so smooth, so cool under pressure yesterday, and it wants to pick up on that form. Seaton closes up as they come round to the hairpin, onto the pit straight again. Johnson in 3rd place, Colin Bond is 4th, Wynne Percy 5th. What a drive again. The Commodore coming really good at the end of the season, and don't forget Eastern Creek next Saturday. Waibula Sports brings you the Tourers over 500 kilometres at a brand new circuit in Sydney. That will be a ripper. But this is 2 as Jimmy Richards now gets the Nissan to work. Glenn Seaton into 2nd place. Dick Johnson is 3rd. Looking for Wynne Percy. He's chasing Colin Bond in the other Sierra. So it's all Sierras at the moment, with a Commodore chasing, but the Nissan out in front.
Yeah, the Seaton's holding on nicely there. He's sliding it. You can see he's not fooling around. It's a lap 3 down. He's still got a way to go, and this is a track where you can't afford too much of this throwing around. The television isn't giving us the actual dilemma that the drivers are facing as tight as those corners are coming up there. They are tight, and throwing a Sierra 500 horsepower Sierra around into these tight right left-hand corners is putting enormous strain on the tires.
And remember, this is like a concrete tunnel here. If you lose the car at any part here, you've got to be very lucky not to hit anything. Peter Brock worked his way into 7th place now. A great drive from Brock. Blew the car yesterday, changed engines last night.
Seaton staying in the slipstream, noticing that Johnson wasn't in the slipstream. He didn't want to get any overheating. He's not quite in a position to take advantage of that slipstream yet, but he definitely wasn't trying to get onto Seaton's bumper bar, obviously watching the temperature gauges and just saying, I'd like to be around at the finish of this race. Seaton again giving him GTR a bit of a nudge into the horseshoe coming on a pit straight.
The Nissan comes out of the pit straight again. Look at Johnson sliding the car. There's Colin Bond. Win Percy with a Commodore. Gee whiz, I've been impressed with that car this weekend. Really has done a great job. He's had to battle his way each time. Trackside now as they come up over us. Fantastic shots here from the Adelaide racetrack. Percy goes past. Jimmy Richards, 241 kilometres an hour on the last lap on the straight there. Unisys times for you. There's Jimmy Richards in the cockpit, working away out in front. Alan, he's so relaxed. He looks so relaxed. He never looks flustered.
No, and that's one of the keys to this business, Darrell. If you can stay with it and just keep your mind in gear, which is half the battle. He's not fighting from behind. He's got this race under control. The radio people will be telling him if he wanted to, he can look in the rearview mirror. He knows exactly the gaps he's got, and he will just be finessing this 6 more laps to go into another victory here for his team and for himself.
The other thing that people around Australia watching this telecast, it's the straight cut gears that sort of confuse them sometimes. It's just a very positive move, isn't it?
Yes, they're slashing those gearbox. That gearbox is made by Peter Hollinger in Melbourne, a fantastic engineer, world-class engineer, and the gearbox is in this Nissan and in the future in the Sierras and also in the Commodore are all made right in Melbourne. Tremendous credit to Peter Hollinger's engineering abilities.
Well, there's no doubt about the technology in the country. We'll come back to the second in that, because there's the speed trap times from Unisys. Jim Richards at 2:41, Glenn Seaton 2:37, the same for Johnson. Colin Bond at 2:28 off the purse. Look at Win Percy 2:40, Alan Jones at 2:25. They've had a lot of tyre problems, Alan Jones. Their tyres have been slipping pretty badly, and they can't get the traction that they want on this slippery surface. We'll take a break and we'll be back. Stay with us. Welcome back. Lap 6 of 10. Change of position. Seaton now in front from Johnson, Richards, Percy, Jones and Brock. So the missile from Nissan under some strain at the moment, dropping from number 1, not 2, but now in 3rd position. Glenn Seaton doing a job. Dick Johnson now, there it is, and Win Percy charging. He has got a problem. The hand's gone out from Jim Richards. He's waving Win Percy through. So what a drive from Percy. Bad luck for Jimmy Richards. He's now back into 4th spot after leading. Then Alan Jones comes around. Watch this, 1 lap ago. This is where Mark Scaife lost the Nissan the other day. Win Percy with a giant slide, but just didn't clip the tyres as Scaife did. Got the car back on the black stuff.
That's fantastic recovery, Darrell. He must have really started wetting himself when he saw that wall coming up there, doing a good punch around there, 4th gear, flat out trying to get the top speed onto the main straight, and he did a marvelous recovery there. Experience showing, and Win Percy bringing that Commodore back into and now holding it in 3rd spot. Great.
Yeah, fantastic bit of driving. Glenn Seaton, he would be delighted with this. He's had a win in Melbourne earlier this year in this particular car. Had a fairly lean time since he left the Nissan team and went to form his own team driving the Ford Sierra. Very popular young man, very talented, and to get a team going, Alan, no one knows better than you. You've always run your own teams. It's a massive operation.
It's a hard grind, and I do compliment him. He's working hard. He's got his dad behind him, but nevertheless, it's his own efforts. He has to drive the car. He has to manage it and get that team organized from nothing is really hard. Here's the first casualty of the day. Not really the first of the day, but the first in the pits.
Jimmy Richards into the pits, but Seaton just sliding the car around. Johnson now in 2nd place. Dick Johnson, the Queenslander, chasing. Win Percy with a fantastic drive. Colin Bond's car.
Not parked too well there.
No, dangerous spot there at the moment, but I'm sure the drivers will all be aware of it. They've seen it, and the flag marshals will make sure that they're aware of it each time they come around. But it's Seaton and Johnson, 1 and 2. Well, once again, this circuit has caused some attrition with the touring cars. It's a pretty demanding circuit for the tourers.
The heat today as well, Daryl. You can see the heat haze here on the long straight. They will be suffering with under bonnet temperatures, but obviously when you're out in front, you've got nothing but cool air coming in. See Dick Jensen staying wide again. He's not taking any advantage of the possible slipstream that Seaton is allowing him. He wants to keep his engine cool, trying to make up time under brakes. He did close up a little bit there, but he's still got a hard job ahead of him with only 3 laps to go.
Alan, we talk about the heat on the circuit, and these cars, of course, the turbochargers generating so much heat. Is there anything you can do to cool them down in weather like this?
Only if we took the bonnet off, Daryl, and that would be a little bit unsightly and against the regulations. No, it's always a problem to get the heat through, to get the fresh air through to cool the engine itself. Basically, the small air inlet there under the Australian sign on Glenn Seaton's car is all the air that goes into that whole engine compartment, has to cool the intercooler, has to cool the radiator, and there's not a lot left for the poor old engine.
The Ansett Air Freight Challenge over 10 laps. On lap 8 at the moment. And Glenn Seaton doing a great job in the Sierra, had a win at Sandown Park, was delighted with that, and he just loved the win here in front of this very, very big crowd. Grand Prix Day, it's a big thrill for these fellows to throw these cars around this incredible circuit.
Yes, they do, because they can relate to what the Formula One drivers are doing, and they can appreciate just how excellent those fellows are going. This is a demanding circuit. It's not promoted as being as tough as it is, Daryl. It is definitely a hard place to get. And I think the fact that there's so many fellows that are normally up there that we don't see on screen at the moment is a testament to that. They are finding it difficult.
One of those fellows is Peter Brock. He's just gone into the pits. We've had a look down in front of us. So he's had a terrible weekend, Brock. Blew an engine yesterday, back in the pits. Alan Jones running in 4th place. There's Brock. Into the pits again. They've changed the engine overnight to give the fans a look at the Sierra, the red, white and blue car. But look at Win Percy steaming down. I don't think you can get Johnson, but by gee, that's a great drive. I mean, he started on the very last spot on the grid.
If you can imagine, if he'd had his regular pit position, he would have been right in it from the thick of it. It's this reverse grid procedure is the only place we ever see it happening here at Adelaide. It does add excitement to the second race of the day here, but not really the normal manner in which we start our races.
Picked up 17 places during the race. Not a bad drive, really, from Win Percy. Certainly come to grips with the Commodore, and as we said, a magnificent win this year at Bathurst, and really stirred the emotions of all the Aussies. They love to see the V8 Commodores back in the money. And there's Win Percy, beautifully turned out motor car, changed engines overnight to make sure that the fans got a look at the big Aussie V8 in action around this road surface. But it's still Seaton out in front from Johnson. Win Percy pretty evenly spaced now, and unless we see some problems, should finish that way, this young man will be absolutely over the moon.
Yes, he will. He's worked hard all year. He is presents a very professional team and does drive extremely well every time he's got good equipment. And with the Sandown 500 behind him now, as you say, to finish off a nice run here, the AGP, he'd love it.
Well, of course, even though it's the final race here in Adelaide, there's still one big one to go at Eastern Creek next Saturday, and you'll see all the action on Lions Whitewater Sports. Murray Walker's going to join us to call the tourers 500 kilometres around the new track. And Alan, it's a bit of a challenge because none of you really know how the cars are going to be suited and how the tyre wear will be over that distance on a new circuit.
No, that's going to be really exciting, and the fact that it's such a wonderful circuit and giving Sydney an opportunity to have absolutely international class circuit. Adelaide's got one here. We know what Bathurst is like, but certainly a new 20-year lease to go at Eastern Creek. It's something that the Sydney fans can get their teeth into.
Sure, we're really excited about that one. So Alan Jones in 4th place in the Tony Longhurst car. There's the Win Percy Commodore, beautifully turned out car. And gee, it sounds good round here too. That big V8, the sound rebounds off all of the concrete walls around the circuit, and it's just a great sound, and it's a great sight to see a Commodore there. I'm an Aussie, and I don't mind telling you, I don't mind seeing an Aussie product.
It's starting to come through, Daryl. I picked that up. And all the Commodore fellows will have their new cars next year. They're looking forward to that. On the last lap now, Alan Jones and his Sierra had a lot of tyre problems here. They've experienced a lot of slip, as you see Percy fleeting the car through. The wheel stands up.
But Alan Jones worked very hard, but he and Longhurst just couldn't get the right tyre combination. The track just a little slippery, and they've had a lot of wheel spin and overheating the tyres. That's been the problem, and of course that forces lack of grip.
Absolutely. And one other thing to credit where it's due, they don't get a lot of practice here, Daryl. They can't come and practice during the year. It is a lay-down misere. It's cold turkey. It's the run-of-the-mill. The Formula Ones, of course, take precedence over the practice times. They don't get a lot of time to set their vehicles up. And if they're not just spot on with the forces that are in existence here, they're going to have problems.
Glenn Seaton will take this Ansett Air Freight 10-lap challenge here in Adelaide International Raceway, the street circuit that everybody in the world talks about. Beautifully prepared motor car, stunning in its blue colours, coming down now and looking at around 237 kilometres an hour, backing off slightly. He's got a pretty handy lead from Johnson. You can see in picture in second place. And Johnson yesterday made one of the most amazing starts, but both of his cars having a bit of a problem over here in Adelaide too. The heat, the slippery surfaces. Well, there's all sorts of people here in Adelaide. I mean, they've come from all over the world, but none more famous than that man. Juan Fangio drove that beautiful Mercedes yesterday looking at the tourists. Very, very interested in what's going on here. Still loves his motorsport. Put the thing into the tyre wall yesterday. And there's Glenn Dix now gives Glenn Seaton the checkered flag. The young fellow delighted with that. Dick Johnson is in second place. Win Percy, fantastic drive to get into third from 20th position on the grid. Alan Jones takes fourth.